The Fortune 500 companies in the United States are the largest, most powerful companies often in the world. They're the pinnacle of US capitalism. In 1964, the average life expectancy of a Fortune 500 company was 61 years. Today, it's less than 18 years. 88% of the companies on the list from 1955 are gone. Only 12% remain. They're the victims of bankruptcy, mergers, or they've just fallen off the list. Companies like Studebaker, Falstaff Brewing, Pacific Vegetable Oil, Regal Textile, they're all gone. The victims of what's known as creative destruction. And creative destruction is good for the US economy. It ensures that only the most innovative, vibrant, well-managed companies survive. But it's really tough on the American worker. I grew up in New York City. My dad had one job his whole career. He worked for Citibank for 46 years. For all of you, the odds of you having one job for your whole career are virtually zero. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says that for someone starting work today, by the age of 40, they will have had 10 jobs. In the new gig economy, you may have a new employer every few months. And very soon, you Bellarmine students, sooner than you think, you'll be out in the workplace. How are you going to be successful? How are you going to find meaning in your work? Not just financial security, but visceral meaning in your work. How are you going to compete in this hyper-competitive global economy? The answer is to be an entrepreneur and think like an entrepreneur. Even if you don't start your own company and you work for somebody else, employers value employees who add value to their business, who think about signing up new customers and opening new markets and innovating and creating efficiencies every single day. The good news for you Bellarmine students is that you chose to get a Jesuit education. And the Jesuits were founded by one of the world's greatest entrepreneurs, Ignatius Loyola. He was born in the Basque region of Spain in 1491. He started the Jesuits when he was 49. He died 16 years later. And in those 16 years, the Jesuits established 35 colleges across Europe, more than 2 a year. In the next 200 years, they ramped that up to more than 4 a year and had 800 colleges across Europe, Asia, and Latin America. He started with 9 guys. He called them the companions, 9 companions. And they were the definition of entrepreneurs. They went all over the world spreading the word. St. Francis Xavier was one of them. He went to India and Japan and Borneo and died in China. This is 1542. And he did it with little to no support, little to no capital. He had to learn the local languages and the local customs and fight all kinds of hardship. At Harvard Business School, they define entrepreneurship as the pursuit of opportunity beyond resources controlled. And that's what the Jesuits are all about. They're the consummate entrepreneurs. Ignatius Loyola told his 9 companions to go set the world aflame. And he went out and he raised money. He raised money the old-fashioned way. He begged for it. As an entrepreneur, I can really relate to that. He inspired people. He kept refining the mission. They didn't start out to build the greatest educational system the world had seen to date. Before the modern era of public education, the Jesuit education system was the largest in the world. But he found that education was a way to accomplish his mission. And they just got out there and did it. They adapted to change. When Ignatius started, his original idea was to go to Jerusalem and start a ministry that was focused on the Holy Land. It was the company of Jesus, and they were going to start in the Holy Land and focus on where Jesus was born and lived, in the Holy Land. Well, unfortunately, at the time, the Turks controlled the Holy Land. So he pivoted, and he went to Rome and started his global ministry there. They took risks as they went all over the world. They learned, they built a great team. They overcame all kinds of hardship, torture, starvation, sickness. And in a world where the lifespan of a Fortune 500 company is less than 18 years, they built a company that survived 500 years. But perhaps his biggest contribution was the Examen, the spiritual exercises. And the Examen is all about how to live a full life and how to find God in that life. And it calls for us to be attentive, to pay attention to our daily experiences, and then reflect on those. Reflect on the meaning of each of those experiences, and then take action. And in that action, be caring toward others. And the interesting thing about the Examen and that process of discernment is that it's 100% relevant to an entrepreneur. It's the same process to be attentive, be reflective, and then take action. Often people come to me, often young people, and they say, "Hey, Bill, I want to start a business. I don't want to work for somebody else. I want to have the satisfaction of working for myself and building something. But I don't know what that something is. I haven't figured that out yet. How do I do that?" Well, if you wake up one morning and decide you're going to start a company, but you don't know what that company is going to do, your odds of success are pretty low. So my advice is always go find an industry where you have some passion and spend some time understanding that industry. Not superficially, but really understanding that industry. And then reflect on that. Where are the opportunities? What's working? What's not? What do my customers really need? How can I create value? And then take action. Develop a business plan. Think about how you're going to inspire people. Inspire people to share your vision. And how are you going to show constituents that you care? Your employees, your customers, your investors, your partners. I started CyberSource in 1994. And the original idea came to me when I was in the software industry. I was working for McAfee, the antivirus company. And the unique thing about McAfee is that we were pioneers in the electronic distribution of software. Back in 1994, if you wanted to buy software, generally what you did is you went down to a store. And there were a bunch of stores open at the time. There was Egghead and Software, et cetera. And they had these shelves, and the shelves were filled with shrink wrap boxes. And so you'd walk up and down the shelves and you'd figure out what kind of software you wanted, and you'd buy the shrink wrap box and you'd go home and you'd open the shrink wrap box and install the software. And the whole process was slow, and the selection was limited by the amount of shelf space that the company had. It was inefficient. And then one day I saw the first demo of an internet browser and the beginning of the World Wide Web. At McAfee, we distributed our software electronically, and we used the internet, but it was pre-web. Access to the internet at the time was through a green screen. And there was nothing intuitive about anything you did on that green screen. But when I saw that first browser, I knew the world had changed. And I knew the method for software distribution would change. And so the idea was that I would go out and I would sell software over the internet. Much faster, have an unlimited selection, much more efficient, and provide instant gratification to the customer. So I launched a website called software.net under the CyberSource umbrella. And one of the unique things about software.net was we actually had a buy button on the website. Now that's hard to believe today, but back in 1994, the common wisdom was that you might shop on the internet, but you wouldn't buy things. You'd shop, you'd do the research, and then you go down to the store, or you do mail order or telephone order. But because the model at software.net was instant gratification, we built a buy button that was connected to a real-time transaction processing system. So we could accept payment in real time, get the authorization, and let the customer download the software. And so I went out to all the big software publishers at the time, Microsoft, Symantec, McAfee, Adobe, Apple, and I got the rights to distribute their software electronically. And the buy button caught on. It didn't take long before other companies came to me and said, "Hey, Bill, we see what you've done with software.net. We want to put a buy button on our website. Can we get access to that payment processing technology that you built?" So we started a second business unit. We called it Internet Commerce Services. And it was an outsourced buy button for anyone who wanted to sell products over the internet. And so from that idea and 16 years of hard work and great work by a great team of people, we sold to 300,000 customers. We processed 2 billion transactions a year, worth over $120 billion, with over 800 employees. But the point of that is that we never set out to be in the payment processing business. But we paid attention to our customers. We reflected on the experiences that we had. We listened to what they told us, and we acted. And we went through a similar process that Ignatius Loyola went through. And we endured the hardship, and we took the risks, and we adapted to change, and we built a successful business. Now, When I was in high school, it wasn't obvious I was going to be an entrepreneur. I went to Xavier High School in New York City, the Bellarmine of New York City. Maybe Bellarmine is the Xavier of San Jose. I think Xavier was first. But I went to Xavier, and then I went to Boston College. And like many of you, I was immersed in the Jesuit experience. And it affected me deeply and really gave me a framework for thinking about entrepreneurship, even if I didn't realize it at the time. And afterwards, I went to business school. It was the first time I was in a classroom without a crucifix on the wall. But all of you who are students at Bellarmine are incredibly lucky. Incredibly lucky. Because you're exposed to the framework that Ignatius Loyola set out almost 500 years ago. And it will help you find a vocation, a meaning in life. The theologian Frederick Buechner said, "Vocation is the place where your deep gladness and the world's hunger meet." In the Jesuit tradition, we talk about magis, the Latin word more, be more, do more, give more. If you follow the framework that Ignatius set out, you will find that intersection of you and what the world needs from you. You will find your vocation. Go set the world aflame.